next game, we had the Bears taking on the Broncos. This game was interesting.
This game went exactly as we said. Like this is exactly what we thought it was going to be. The only difference was the Bears won by 2. We saw someone winning by 3. That was and this was the exact number. I think we said 17-14 in the preview.
Yeah, exactly.
So Mitch cost us a point somewhere. I don't know what he was doing. I don't know what.
I mean, he made one good pass all game. Joe Flacco looked like he was leading a game-winning drive for the first time in his recent memory, or it seems like his career, but recent memory. Eddie Pinheiro, the kicker, hit a big field goal to win the game for Chicago, which is a rare occurrence.
The Bears have a kicker who can
But yeah, that's
kicks.
the takeaway, and it wasn't a great game. I really don't think that the Bears got the timeout with 1 second left. I think the Broncos should have won 14-13. But yeah, that's just an NFL conspiracy theory now. So
the conspiracy theory comes in with that roughing the passer call. I mean,
I think a big takeaway from that game, though, is bad officiating. Interesting calls. A takeaway from the whole week is bad.
That's
the
what
year
I was going to say.
So far is bad officiating. It's kind of a joke.
The NFL?
We'll get into it more in the next game, I'm sure. But
the NFL is notorious for. It seems like they don't tell the officials that they're supposed to communicate with the fans and the teams about what they're calling in the next year. And through the first 4 weeks every year, there's just certain calls that they keep making where no one knows what's going on. No one knows the rules. And then it seems by about Thanksgiving, so week 10, week 11, they're like, you know what, let's just go back. Like, no one gets the new rules. No one gets why we're calling PI this often. No one gets why we're calling illegal contact this often. So, you know what, we're just going to stop calling it. And then you get to the playoffs and there's just, you can't get a call. That's what it feels like every year. Like, it just seems like they try and add these new rules at the start of every year. These roughing the passer, like you pick the rule where they try and emphasize it. And this year it's holding. I mean, how many holding penalties have there been this year? Holy. And they're going to get called all for the next 2 weeks, maybe 3, and that's going to start tapering down. And all of a sudden by Thanksgiving, there's going to be 1 a game. And everyone's going to be saying, see, we taught you. And clearly it's just going to be the NFL is like, yo, we don't want this many penalties. Like, just stop calling this. And that's what happens every year. And the reality is, as a fan, I'd rather see fewer penalties. I don't need to see a chancy 50-50 holding call every time. Like, just let it go. Like,
yeah.
I understand by letter of the law, it's a holding penalty. I understand by letter of the law, Mitch got hit in the head there. I get it. I get that was a roughing the passer call. Like, I get it. If you read me the rule, that was a roughing the passer call. But at the end of the day, we're not watching football games to get read the NFL rulebook. We're watching it because it's the best athletes in the world playing an amazing sport. And we don't want to watch the guys in black and white try and tell us what the actual rules of the league are. We should know what it is. And like the classic saying is let the boys play. But sometimes we just got to let the rules go a little bit and understand that although you may technically be outside and intoxicated, and that's technically a fine when you're outside a bar, no one's going to arrest you for that. Like, do you know that you can get arrested for that technically if you're right outside a bar and drunk? You can get charged as drunken and disorderly technically, but no one's ever going to do that. It's the same thing. Like, the NFL just needs to take that idea and apply it earlier in the season, because it's just tough, man. Watching these games where I think the Saints got called for 9 holding penalties.
Yeah.
Like, why are we calling this many holding penalties?
That's a good transition into that game, because the Rams-Saints game, the big takeaway from at least the media for this game was the amount of penalties that were called against the Saints that were big penalties again. Just like we saw in the NFC Championship game last year. So what do you think about all that?
I just think, like, it's frustrating because the calls on certain plays. They just don't call it evenly.
Yeah.
Like, I understand the offensive line didn't play well this week, and they were a little slow in the LA Heat. But you can't possibly tell me that they were that holding that much more than the Rams for it to be that consistently. The penalty breakdown was ludicrous, and there was multiple replays where there was clear. First of all, before you even get into that, why is a blindside block a penalty now?
Yeah, no, I don't like that.
What is that? Like, I'm like, man, as a receiver, the fact that you got rid of the one play where you could actually hit someone as a receiver,
yeah,
cleanly, like, what is that? Like, you can't hit someone from behind. That's cool. But if you go shoulder to shoulder with them and they're not looking, you're playing football. Like, come on, man.
Yeah, exactly.
Why is that a penalty now?
They always have to be ready.
I didn't know they added that until week 1, and it happened in the Bears game. I was like, wait, what? That's rule now? And it happened in this game, and I just want clarification on why. Like, I understand we're player safety, like, whatever, but, like, come on, man. That's like, at this point, like, I hate complaining about the NFL being soft guy on Twitter. I can't stand that guy. But, like, come on, man. There's a line on this where, like, really, you can't crack a guy anymore. Like, you're literally taught that in high school.
Yep.
Like, I promise you that rule is still allowed in high school.
Yep. Probably.
like we were taught that repeatedly from like 12 years old. You crack a kid who's running with his head the wrong way.
Yeah.
Like, that's what you're supposed to do. And they got rid of that. It makes no sense. My buddy who I was watching it was like, that's a screen in basketball.
Yeah.
Like, that's like, you want a guy to run into you full speed. Like, that's literally what you're trying to do. Oh man, that grinds me that they got rid of that. Like, I can't stand that that's a rule in the NFL now.
Yeah. Well, moving from rule talk to this game, I think the Rams showed that they're a decent team, but I'll let you talk about this more because you're the New Orleans fan, of course, but it hurt watching Drew Brees go down. I know that you feel that way, but
yeah,
how do you think that affects the season in general, and how do you feel about Drew Brees going down?
First of all, I got to call out Colin Cowherd for saying that the Saints have no offense anymore, and using this game as an example, and inciting Drew throwing a pick and the Saints going 3-0. First of all, the pick was a drop on a great throw. Like, I don't know how, like, that was an outstanding throw. So, and it was like a 25-yard throw to Jared Cook, the new tight end edition. So I don't know how you're using that as an indictment on the Saints offense. And then the follow-up, the 3-and-out on the play, Drew destroyed his hand on a hit from Aaron Donald. Those are the two plays he used as an example of how the Saints, like, there are so many examples for why the Saints offense is lesser than it was a few years ago. But just look back to Houston. The offense was explosive all game.
Yeah.
The Saints were going to score points in this game. And frankly, you know what the takeaway for me is in this game?
What?
It has nothing to do with the Saints at all. The Rams are not as good as they were last year.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
The Rams were horrible in the first half. Like, I don't know how no one is talking about the fact that the Saints should have been ahead at halftime of this game, and Drew was not playing. like, I don't know what like, maybe the Rams offense figured it out in the second half, and we'll see this week and the coming weeks if they figured it out. But they were horrible against Carolina, and I mean, that first half they were horrendous. They hit one play, like one deep ball to Brandon Cooks, and then the Saints shut them down in the red zone. So they couldn't move. They couldn't run the ball. Like, I'm mad. Yeah. So I think that's my takeaway, because, like, I don't know how much you can take away from the Saints, because Drew was out and Teddy had no game plan. So it's hard to judge Teddy and what he's going to look like in the Saints offense when, I mean, he wasn't, like, they weren't ready for him to play. Like,
yeah. Do you think it'll be a kind of rotating door with Teddy Bridgewater and Taysom Hill, though, or do you think it'll be just Teddy?
I think they're going to give Teddy at least 2 games and see how it goes.
Yeah. That's fair.
Maybe 3.
Good call.
Is the third one Tampa because it goes Seattle, Dallas, and Tampa.
Yep.
So it depends on how bad he looks in the next 2. If he looks really bad in the next 2, I think they would give Taysom a shot against Tampa. But the reality is, we paid Teddy for a region. He's like, Teddy is supposed to be the guy this year if Drew goes down. He got the money. This is why Teddy is here. And so it's up to Teddy. But I don't want to talk about the Saints too much because Drew going down, like, everyone's talking about how bad the Saints offense looked or defense looked in the second half. I mean, like, they were unbelievable in the first half. So, like, they were outstanding in the first half. They gave the Rams only scored 27 points, and they would have scored less if the Saints could have moved the ball. Mm-hmm. It was just a reality of they got tired. Like, they're wearing black jerseys in 95 degrees in LA. Like, they just got tired.
Yeah.
It's it's like saying Miami's defense played terrible against the Patriots and just looking at the score. Like, it's just completely
you need context, right?
Yeah, the takeaway is clearly, like, why is the Rams offense bad?
Yeah.
Because they were terrible against Carolina, and they were bad in the first half of this game. What do you think? What is, like, did the Rams figure it out in the second half? Like, are they fine now, or is this a recurring thing we're going to keep seeing?
I think the first half was sketchy, but they played well in the second half. They kind of figured it out. But I think they used a bit more Todd Gurley in the second half as well, which helped them out a lot. But, no, it'll be interesting. I'm with you. Their offense doesn't look as good.
Yeah, Gurley looked like he almost needed, like, a couple carries to warm his knee up.
Yeah, he did.
It was almost like it was almost like he needs, like, an extended warm up to get his knee going.
Yeah,
or something. It's weird. His explosion was way better.
Once he got going, he was going though. I'll say that. So he had a nice touchdown. I mean,
it's almost
good game.
It's literally almost like they just have to be like, we're not going to score much in the first half, but we just got to feed Gurley and he's got to warm up.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, that's literally almost what I mean. A hidden story in this game. Jared looked way better in the second half, but I mean, he missed some throws in the first half again. And he was terrible against Carolina.
Yeah.
I think the Rams are lucky right now in who they've played so far, because they've played teams that we think are better than they actually are.
Mm-hmm.
So we're talking about how good their offenses looked and, like, how good they've looked, but, like, the reality situation is the Rams, they've got a lot to figure out if they're going to be the Super Bowl team that everyone is expecting them to be. Because I think right now, I mean, Philly, that game, we're going to talk about that next, but Philly, everyone got hurt. Mm-hmm. So I don't know how you can really take too much away from how their offense looked in that game, but I don't know how you can rank the Rams ahead of Dallas right now.
Mm-hmm.
Simply, like, I know Dallas hasn't played anybody, but the way that offense looks, right?
Yeah, that's fair. So now we're getting into the second last game of the week with the Atlanta Falcons versus Philadelphia Eagles. It's a good game. Ended with the Falcons 24-20 win on an end of the game, pretty much walk-off touchdown, even though it wasn't quite a walk-off touchdown. Sweet block by Mohamed Sanu on a long Julio Jones catch on a screen and run.
You got to love the celly before he's, like, 2 yards away from the block. Like,
I loved it when Mohamed Sanu just put him on the ground through the fist bump, and
it must
Julio
be fun.
was off to the races.
It must be fun playing with a demigod who, like, as soon as he gets, like, any space in the open field, he's going to score a touchdown.
Oh, that would be so much fun. It would be like being the third wide receiver on Alabama right now.
I'm sure there's some clips of. We'll get to this game next, but some Browns celebrating a little early on that Odell slant. Mm-hmm. Same idea. Once those guys get the ball on the field, I mean.
Yeah, they're special talents, and my takeaway from the game was the Falcons. Matt Ryan just needed a warm-up week. They looked like they started getting it going a bit. And the Eagles, Carson Wentz looks like there's something off, to be honest. They were decent. They weren't as good as I expected them to be. But No, Falcons came out, played a good game, got the win. It was an exciting game. So, what are your thoughts about it?
I don't really have any takeaways for the Eagles because, like, with Carson Wentz, I mean, when 3 of your top 4 receivers get hurt in the first half, like when they lose Deshaun, Alshon, and they lost someone else too. It doesn't matter. Whatever. They lost 3 huge receivers for them really early. That completely just ruins your offense. I mean, they said it. They said it when they were running the 2-point conversion right before the touchdown. I mean, how many times do you run the 2-point conversion a million times because you want that play set. You want to know that's the play that's going to work when you need it. But with a caveat that you run it with a certain guys who are going to be on the field. Mm-hmm. And so when you're running it with second and third string guys interspersed with Zach Ertz, like how well are they going to do it? And like obviously they did it well, but like I think that came across the rest of the game. I mean, there was multiple plays where Wentz had nowhere to go with the ball, like just literally nowhere. Mm-hmm. It's just like it just hurts too much of your offense when you lose guys like that early in the game. It just completely ruins your game plan. Like
injuries really derailed their game plan. They threw them off for sure.
I'm sure they had something set for Deshaun over the top. Like I'm sure they had a play to hit Deshaun over the top, and all of a sudden he's going 3 plays in, and like see you later. Like there goes a huge part of their game plan.
Yeah.
Same with Alshon. I mean, we can say what we want about Wentz, but they should have won that game. That throw to Aguilar, that was a touchdown if he catches that. Yep. And even if he doesn't catch that, that's a 30-yard, 40-yard gain, and they're way closer with way more time on the clock. So at best, at worst, they have a way better shot of winning that football game. So I think it was just 2 really good teams. My takeaway was the Falcons' defense is the 2 takeaways for me were both with the Falcons. Their defense is so much better than last year. Mm-hmm. Deion Jones is a freak. I mean, those cuts of him, those cuts they would go to showing him guarding Sproles out of the backfield, and he's running right with Sproles. Like, that was freaky.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I think a linebacker, and I know as a Saints fan, going against Atlanta, he's just everything for that defense. When he's on the field, completely changes their game plan. Their defensive line is so much better than it was last year. I mean, you look at a guy like Tyler Davidson, bringing him in, he's just completely changed how they look right in the middle. They're just so much harder to run the ball on. That was the thing. If you're going to have a takeaway on the Eagles, they couldn't run the ball at all. Mm-hmm. When you could argue that if you picked their 7 best players on the field in the game yesterday, at least 4 of them were offensive linemen, and so they couldn't run the ball. And I'm going to chalk that up to the Falcons being way better this year.
Yeah.
He's crushed this team last year, and I believe they're a playoff team this year. And the way that defense played yesterday proved me right. Mm-hmm. And then my follow-up takeaway on the Falcons, like the second takeaway, was the talent they have around Matt Ryan is elite. Mm-hmm. Like, they got Keto Smith, or what is it? What is his first name? Or whatever. Who cares? What was that running back's first name?
I'm not sure.
He's got a weird first name.
I'm not sure.
It doesn't really matter, but he's outstanding. Ito. Thank you. Ito is all purpose to go along with Devontae Freeman. I mean, Ito is a perfect replacement for oh my God, the guy that went to San Francisco, Tevin Coleman. He's a perfect replacement for Tevin Coleman. Mm-hmm. I feel he fits really nicely with Devontae Freeman. Gives them that look that they had a couple years ago when they went to the Super Bowl, the 2 dynamic running backs. Mm-hmm. But I think more so the reason this offense is so impressive is Calvin Ridley is a number 1 receiver level talent, and you see it every time he plays now. The guy's a freak.
Yeah.
He's so much better than I think most people anticipated, and watching him play every week is a treat now with his route running ability. He's so much faster than he looked at Alabama. Mm-hmm. He's just a way better player than I think everybody realized. The guy was a complete steal. Then you throw in Julio. I mean, what more can you say?
Yeah,
If you
Sanu.
If you ever want to know how good Julio is, just watch that play. Like that's why you
exactly.
pay. If you're gonna pay a receiver, it's because they do things that no one else in the league can do.
Mm-hmm.
And Julio's the perfect embodiment of that. Sanu, a third receiver. I mean, how you do? Mohamed Sanu is your third receiver.
Yeah, he'd be a first receiver in a bunch of teams.
And then Austin Hooper is a Pro Bowl level tight end. So
yeah,
Atlanta's loaded. I think especially with Drew being out at least 6 games, they got to be the favorite.
Yeah, definitely.
They got to. I thought they'd win 9 or 10. I think with the Saints injuries and Carolina coming off the rails a little bit, and their second place schedule, I think 10 is more than reasonable for that team for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I'm with you on that. Couldn't agree more. Moving to the final game of the week. Last night we had the Browns playing the Jets. This game was it was pretty one-sided, to be honest. It wasn't the most exciting game. And if you're a Browns fan, you might have found it pretty exciting watching Odell have 2 pretty big plays. One big catch down the sideline with one hand, the other
he's so good.
Pretty long slant. I think he might be the best slant receiver in the NFL. But
him and Cam.
Yeah, no, the Browns they looked better. Of course, it's against a beat-up Jets team who were on their third string quarterback by the end of the game. But you can't discount that. Still an NFL team, still 1-1. The Browns are, Jets are 0-2. Their season's pretty much over now. But the Browns, they're in a good spot. Look good. Baker Mayfield had 325 yards, a touchdown. Odell with 6 catches for 161 and a touchdown. Like, that's a really good game for both of them. So, yeah, I'm not too worried about them. And they once they get Kareem Hunt back in that offense week 8, I think that's when that Browns team takes off. I wouldn't be surprised with a few more losses up until then, but I think they're just starting to figure it out here. What are your takeaways from the game?
I mean, first of all, how did Carolina not trade for Odell? I mean, Mr. Slant with Mr. Slant.
Yeah, I don't know.
The guy who only throws slants with the guy who runs the best slant. How's that for a pairing? But
that would have been funny.
What's your outlook on the Browns for us here quickly?
Yeah, I'm thinking the Browns are kind of a 8-8-ish team, fringe wild card team.
Does the injury and the AFC North seemingly open up change your thought process on where?
Yeah, definitely. I think that changes my thought process on the division from the Steelers winning it to the Ravens winning it now. But yeah, I don't think that's going to affect the Browns too much. I still think they're about a 500, maybe a game or 2 over. But yeah, I think they're a fringe playoff team at this point. I'm excited to see what's to come, but what are you thinking about them right now?
I see them as the second best team in that division right now. I think 9-7 is still a reasonable proposition. Maybe 10-6 now that they should get 2 wins against the Steelers. But